Hello, welcome to Great Movie Recap. Today, we will recap an American mystery thriller film called Glass Onion, a Knives Out mystery. Spoilers ahead. Watch out and enjoy. The movie Glass Onion starts with a group of friends getting a strange mystery box. The first person to receive it is Lionel, who works as Alpha's main scientist. Next is Claire, the governor of Connecticut. Then we have Birdie, a successful fashion entrepreneur, and her assistant Peg. Also, there's Duke, a famous social media star, along with his girlfriend Whiskey. Once they solve the puzzles in the box, it reveals an invitation card from their billionaire friend Miles Braun. He has invited them to his private island for a murder mystery game. The goal is to find out who killed Miles. But they aren't the only ones invited. Benoit Blanc, a famous detective, has also received an invitation. As they're about to board the yacht, they get a surprise guest, Andy, who used to be friends with everyone in the group. Lionel explains to the detective that Andy and Miles were once partners in a company named Alpha. However, Miles decided to remove Andy from the company through legal means. Upon reaching their destination, Miles warmly greets each of his friends, but he is surprised and confused to see Andy among them. The presence of the detective also puzzles him. Despite the initial surprises, Miles takes them all on a tour of the island, revealing that they are the only ones present. There are no human maids or helpers. Instead, all the tasks are performed by android robots. The upper level of the villa has a unique design, resembling an onion, and is made entirely of glass. Later, Miles privately asks Detective Blanc how he was invited. It turns out that Miles only had 5 boxes made for his friends, and didn't invite the detective himself. This suggests that one of the friends sent the detective an invitation, but it remains uncertain which one did it. Despite this, Miles finds the idea of having a real detective in his murder mystery game intriguing. So he officially invites Benoit to be a part of it. During a gathering, Miles boasts about his influence on each of his friends' careers. He claims to have promoted Lionel to the head scientist of Alpha, supported Claire's successful election campaign, helped Duke's YouTube channel gain immense popularity, and introduced Birdie to the fashion industry. His friends feel annoyed and uncomfortable as he brags about these accomplishments. Meanwhile, Andy stands up and starts to lecture everyone, expressing her anger towards her former business partner, Miles. She accuses him of unjustly removing her and taking sole ownership of Alpha. On that night, the actual party begins, and everyone is dressed up for the occasion. Miles leads them on a tour of the facility. To everyone's surprise, he has the renowned Mona Lisa painting displayed on his wall. He discloses that he bought it for an astonishing price that even the French government couldn't turn down. He then reveals a small crystal-like substance that he calls Clear. Miles introduces Clear as the future solution to the global energy crisis, a substance so powerful that a tiny amount can fuel his entire island. Then he starts the murder mystery game during dinner but is interrupted by Detective Blanc, who astonishingly solves the case almost instantly. The detective points out several clues, leading him to believe that Birdie is the one who will commit the murder. Miles takes Benoit to the Glass Onion and questions why he had to ruin the party. Detective Blanc explains that he intentionally disrupted the game to prevent his friends from using it as a cover to harm Miles. He reveals that he had been investigating everyone, and found that they all had genuine motives to wish harm upon Miles. When Andy enters the room, tensions rise. Claire confronts Andy for judging them as self-centered, and Andy accuses the group of betraying her in favor of Miles, who she believes is a fraud. Duke intervenes, telling Andy that she's not a victim but a loser. This infuriates Andy, prompting her to storm out. Despite the conflict, Miles encourages everyone to continue enjoying the party. Duke shows Miles something on his phone and asks for a favor, which Miles agrees to. He maintains a cheerful face and joins the others in dancing. Shortly after Duke began drinking, he suddenly started choking and collapsed to the floor. Everyone rushed to check on him, but the detective soon reveals that Duke has died. He becomes suspicious, suspecting that Duke's death was not due to natural causes but rather that he was murdered. As the detective explains his theory, Miles notices his initials on the glass Duke was drinking from, suggesting that the killer had intended to poison Miles, but Duke accidentally drank from the poisoned glass. To complicate matters further, the detective discovers that Duke's gun is missing. Miles pleads with Benoit for protection, but then the lights suddenly go out. Miles had planned this as part of the game to add more intrigue. Suspicion falls on Andy, as she is the only one with a personal grudge against Miles. The group decides to search for her together, intending to harm her in retaliation. Unaware of Duke's death, Andy is found by Detective Blanc. During their conversation, we notice a hand holding Duke's gun, and a shot is fired, killing Andy. The others rush in and find Andy's lifeless body. The film then transitions to a flashback, where Andy visits Benoit and hands him her invitation card. She introduces herself as Andy's sister, Helen. Helen explains that 4 days ago, Andy was found dead in her garage, and all evidence pointed toward her taking her own life. Helen shows Andy's phone, displaying the last email she sent before her death. In the email, Andy included a photo of herself holding a red envelope with the message, "I finally found it, I'm giving you all one last chance to confess." Andy had sent the valuable email to Miles and their 4 friends, but received no responses from any of them. After Andy's death, Helen searched the entire house but couldn't find the envelope, implying that the content was highly valuable, leading someone to commit murder to take it. Helen strongly believes that one of the 5 friends is responsible for Andy's death. She urges the detective to attend the private party in Greece. The detective asked her to disguise herself as Andy, as the public is unaware of her sister's murder, making it easier to identify the culprit. It is revealed that a few years ago, Andy and the 4 friends were close and used to hang out at a bar. Andy introduced Miles to the group, and he became an integral part of their circle. Andy had a moment of inspiration one evening, when she came up with a brilliant idea for a technology company. She scribbled her idea on a napkin and shared it with Miles. Miles agreed and eventually co-founded Alpha with Andy, a successful technology company. However, a conflict arose when Miles wanted to pursue solid hydrogen fuel, a risky idea that Andy opposed. Miles sued her to remove her from the company, leading to their falling out. Andy, who rightfully claimed that she had the original idea for the technology company, faced a challenge in court when asked to provide proof. Unfortunately, she had misplaced the note, leaving her without concrete evidence. Desperate for support, she turned to her friends for validation, hoping they would vouch for her. However, to her shock, they betrayed her trust and sided with Miles. Adding to the deceit, Miles managed to create a fake note to strengthen his case, ultimately leading to Andy's defeat. She continued her search and eventually found the original note. She placed it inside an envelope, took a picture of it, and sent it to her former friends. The film jumps ahead on the day when Helen stormed off after having an argument. She was followed by Claire and Duke. Claire explained that, as a politician, she couldn't afford any wrong moves that could jeopardize her career. Despite this, they all went to Helen's house and banged on her door for hours, but when no one answered, they eventually left. Duke admitted that he had arrived first, and almost got into an accident on his way there. The film then cuts to the scene, where the party begins. Helen finds herself in another argument with the group. However, her true intention is to use the chaos of the party to sneak into their rooms, and search for the red envelope containing the crucial evidence. When the lights suddenly go out, Helen seizes the opportunity and sneaks outside. It's during this time that she unexpectedly encounters Benoit. Unfortunately, she is shot dead by an unidentified assailant. Miraculously, after only a few seconds, Helen regains consciousness. It turns out that the journal she was carrying somehow saved her life, acting as an unexpected shield. Benoit is relieved to see her alive, but he comes up with another plan. Once everyone has left the scene, Helen seizes the opportunity and rushes to the one place she hasn't checked yet, the glass onion. Her intuition proves correct, and she discovers the red envelope cleverly hidden behind a wall. In the present, Detective Blanc reveals that Miles is the one responsible for Duke's murder. Miles deliberately handed Duke a drink with pineapple juice, knowing that Duke had a severe pineapple allergy. Everyone is shocked when Helen walks in with the envelope, and Detective Blanc discloses that she is Andy's twin sister, who had died just a few days ago. Confirming the detective's claim, they check the news and realize the truth of Andy's recent death. The detective then explains the motive behind Miles killing Duke. Duke had spotted Miles driving away from Andy's house and almost had an accident. Unbeknownst to Duke, Andy had died on that same day, and the news had not yet been reported. After reading the news about Andy's death, Duke figured out that Miles was involved and decided to blackmail him. Miles pretended to cooperate and offered to give Duke whatever he wanted. However, Miles couldn't risk having anyone know about his involvement in Andy's death, so he decided to eliminate Duke. Miles killed Duke, stole his gun, and used it to shoot Helen. Helen confronts Miles and taunts him, declaring that he'll soon be behind bars. However, Miles quickly takes action and sets fire to the note, destroying the final piece of evidence that could incriminate him. Helen turns to the other members of the group, seeking their support, but none of them agree to vouch for her. Despite everything they have learned, they continue to side with Miles, still under his dominance and influence. As Benoit leaves the room, he hands the clear crystal to Helen, which surprisingly energizes her. Fueled with newfound strength and determination, she begins smashing everything in the room. In a shocking turn of events, Helen sets fire to the place and throws the clear crystal inside, causing the glass onion to explode. Helen rushes up to the Mona Lisa protecting button and presses it. Miles sobs as the iconic painting catches fire and burns to the ground. Helen makes it clear to Miles that his future fuel has just destroyed the world's most famous painting, leaving him without a means to launch clear. As Helen leaves, the friends finally realize that Miles can no longer help them, and they decide to testify against him in court. In the final scene, a victorious Helen approaches Benoit and expresses her gratitude.